Silence hurts more than words. Emily knew this as she cleaned windows she could never afford, as her calloused hands touched luxuries that belonged to others, as her dreams of being a writer were tucked away in cheap notebooks no one would ever read. She had learned to become invisible, to walk through the world without making a sound, without bothering anyone, without asking for more than what life seemed willing to give. But that morning, when her green eyes met his blue ones, something in the air shifted. An electric current, a silent recognition, a question neither of them dared to ask. Ethan Cole looked at her as if he had just discovered that the cleaning staff had souls, as if he suddenly remembered that behind the uniforms were beating hearts, breathing dreams, and a dignity that refused to die. And Emily, for the first time in years, felt seen, truly seen. Not as the woman who cleaned his books, but as the woman who understood them, who loved them, who could speak of them with a passion he had forgotten existed. In that moment, without knowing it, they both began to write the most beautiful story of their lives, the story of two lonely souls who recognized each other in the silence and decided that love was worth all the risks. The rain fell on Los Angeles like tears the sky could no longer hold. Emily Johnson clutched the white envelope to her chest, feeling the paper grow damp with her own tears. 23 years old, a literature graduate with honors, and there she was, standing in front of the elegant office where she had just been fired due to personnel cuts. "Miss Johnson," the director had said with a fake smile, "we regret to inform you that your services are no longer required. The company is undergoing a restructuring." But she knew the truth. She had rejected the advances of the human resources manager, had kept her dignity intact, and now she was paying the price. Her green eyes, normally bright as emeralds, were dull with exhaustion and disillusionment. The bus taking her back to her small apartment in a modest part of the city was filled with workers heading home. Emily found a seat by the window, watching the wet streets of her adopted city pass by. Her parents had sacrificed everything for her to study, selling the small family bakery to pay for her tuition. And now her phone vibrated. A message from her younger sister Jessica. "Em, how was work? Mum's asking if you're coming for dinner on Sunday. She says she has some good news to share." Emily closed her eyes. How could she tell them she had lost the job that had cost them so much? How could she explain that her boss had fired her for not giving in to his whims? Arriving at her apartment, a tiny but clean studio she rented with the little she earned, she collapsed onto the small bed. The walls were lined with books, her only luxury and her greatest passion. Fitzgerald, Hemingway, Toni Morrison, authors who had kept her company during lonely nights, fueling her dreams of one day writing something that would touch hearts. She picked up her writing notebook, the one she had bought with the first few dollars she ever earned, and began to write. "Today, I learned that dignity has a price, and sometimes keeping it hurts more than losing it." Her tears stained the ink, but she kept writing. It was the only thing she had left. Words, dreams that no one could take from her. Outside, the rain continued to fall on Los Angeles, washing the streets but not the wounds of the soul. Emily fell asleep clutching her notebook, unaware that her life was about to change forever. The next day, while searching for job openings on the internet at a cafe with free Wi-Fi, she overheard a conversation at the next table. "I need someone to clean and organize my library. It's a very extensive collection. It requires someone who understands books." "And where is this, ma'am?" "At a residence in Beverly Hills. The gentleman is particular, very demanding, but he pays well, very well." Emily looked up. An older, elegantly dressed woman was speaking to a younger one. Without a second thought, she approached them. "Excuse me, ma'am. I couldn't help but overhear. I have a degree in literature and I need a job." The woman looked her up and down. Emily was wearing her best dress, a navy blue one that had belonged to her mother. Her fair skin contrasted with her brown hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, and her green eyes showed a mix of hope and desperation. "Experience in cleaning?" "Ma'am, I've been cleaning my whole life, and books, they are my passion. I would care for them as if they were my own." The woman smiled slightly. "I'm Helen Miller, head housekeeper of the Cole residence. If you're interested, you can be there tomorrow at 7 in the morning, but I warn you, Mr. Ethan is difficult. He's fired 5 employees this month." Emily felt her heart beat faster. Ethan, a name that sounded like destiny. "I'll be there, Mrs. Miller. I won't disappoint you." That night, Emily did her nails, ironed her best white blouse, and mentally prepared for the challenge. She had read about the Coles, a powerful family of LA entrepreneurs with businesses across the country. Ethan Cole was the heir, a 32-year-old man who had multiplied the family fortune with investments in technology. But something had happened. The newspapers spoke of a scandal, of a temporary withdrawal from business. The society magazines speculated about his private life, his failed relationships, his tarnished reputation. As she brushed her brown hair, Emily wondered what kind of man he would be. Arrogant, despotic, lonely. It didn't matter. She needed this job, and she would do whatever it took to keep it. With dignity, but she would do it. She fell asleep thinking of books and of blue eyes she had seen in magazine photos, cold, distant eyes that seemed to hold secrets. She thought this was the worst night of her life, but she couldn't yet imagine what was to come. Have you ever felt like you hit rock bottom just before finding your destiny? If this story is touching your heart, give it a like, comment which city you're watching from, and don't forget to subscribe, because what's coming next will move you even more. The Cole residence stood imposingly in the hills of Beverly Hills, surrounded by gardens that looked like they were straight out of a magazine. Emily arrived 5 minutes before 7, nervous but determined. Her shoes, the only formal pair she owned, hurt a little, but she would walk on hot coals to get this job. Helen met her at the service entrance, a side door that led directly to the kitchen. "You're punctual. That's good. Mr. Ethan hates tardiness," she said, as she led her through marble hallways decorated with contemporary art. "The library is on the 2nd floor. It's his sanctuary. No one enters without his permission, but it needs a deep cleaning." They went up a spiral staircase that seemed to be carved by angels. Emily couldn't help but touch the wooden railing, feeling its smoothness under her fingers, calloused from years of work. "One more thing." Helen stopped in front of an oak door. "The mister is going through a difficult time. Don't speak unless you're directly asked. Don't give your opinion on anything, and please don't read his books, just clean them." The library was larger than Emily's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling shelves housed thousands of books in English, Spanish, French, and Italian. There was an unlit fireplace, expensive-looking leather armchairs, and a mahogany desk where papers were piled chaotically. But what impressed her most was the man standing with his back to them, looking out the window at the gardens. Ethan Cole was taller than she expected. He wore a grey sweater and dark pants, but even those casual clothes looked elegant on him. His black hair was slightly dishevelled, as if he had run his hands through it several times. "Sir," said Helen, "this is Emily Johnson, the new assistant for the library." Ethan turned slowly, and Emily felt the air leave her lungs. His eyes were as blue as the Pacific on a clear day, but there was something in them, a deep sadness, a loneliness she recognized because she had felt it herself. "Degree in what?" he asked in a deep voice, without even a greeting. "Literature, sir." "Public or private university?" "UCLA, with honors." Ethan raised an eyebrow, seemingly surprised. "And what is a literature graduate doing cleaning houses?" The question stung, but Emily maintained her dignity. "Degrees don't pay the rent, sir, and books need care, no matter who touches them." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Ethan observed her carefully, and Emily felt that those blue eyes could see beyond her facade of a needy employee. "Helen, you may leave. I'll explain her duties." When they were alone, Ethan walked over to one of the shelves and took down a leather-bound book. "Do you know this author?" It was a first edition of The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Emily felt her hands tremble with excitement. "Of course, sir. It's a masterpiece. In my younger and more vulnerable years, my father gave me some advice. From memory? It's my favorite book. I've read it 15 times. Ethan looked at her with something that seemed like nascent respect. Your tasks are simple. Clean, organized by author and date, catalogue, but also, he paused, I also want you to help me decide which books to donate. There are too many, and some need to be in better hands. Emily felt her heart race. Free books? It would be like Christmas every day. Yes, sir, I'll do my best. One more thing. I'm not your master. I'm your employer. I don't need you to be afraid of me, but I do need your respect. Understood? Yes, Mr. Cole. The following days established a strange routine. Emily arrived at 7, cleaned and organized until 5. Ethan appeared sporadically, sometimes working on his laptop, other times just reading in silence. She began to notice small details, how he rubbed his temples when he was stressed, how he whispered when he read poetry, how his face softened when he found a passage he liked. One Tuesday afternoon, as she was organizing the American literature section, she heard Ethan talking on the phone in English. His voice sounded tense, annoyed. No, Richard, I'm not coming back until this blows over. My reputation is destroyed, and I have no intention of feeding the scandal. Yes, I know we're losing money every day. No, there's no way to speed up the process. Emily pretended to focus on the books, but she couldn't help but listen. When Ethan hung up, she instinctively turned, and their eyes met. He looked vulnerable, tired. Do you speak English, Miss Johnson? A little, sir. The basics. It was a lie. She spoke English perfectly, self-taught thanks to her love of books and movies. But something told her to keep that information to herself. Good. I prefer my private matters to remain private. Of course, sir. That afternoon, while Emily waited for the bus, she saw an abandoned newspaper on the bench. In the society section, a photo of Ethan at a party, with a blonde woman clinging to his arm. The headline read, Business Scandal, Ethan Cole, accused of fraud by ex-lover and partner. She quickly read the article. Apparently his ex-girlfriend and business partner, Victoria Price, had accused him of embezzlement and emotional manipulation. Although the charges had been dropped for lack of evidence, the damage to his reputation was clear. Emily felt a pang of understanding. She too had been the victim of false accusations at her previous job. She knew what it felt like to have your dignity publicly questioned. The next day, she noticed that Ethan seemed more tense than usual. There were dark circles under his blue eyes, and his movements were more abrupt. Miss Johnson, he said as she cleaned the picture frames, have you ever felt like the whole world was judging you without knowing the truth? The question caught her off guard. She turned to him, seeing a sincerity in his face that she hadn't seen before. Yes, sir. It's very painful. And how do you handle it? Emily took a moment to think. She could lie, give a superficial answer, or she could be honest. I write, sir. Words are the only place where I can be completely myself. Ethan looked at her with renewed intensity. What kind of things do you write? Stories. Nothing important, just things I feel. I'd like to read something of yours sometime, if you don't mind. Emily's heart sped up. Ethan Cole wanted to read her writing. I don't know if they're good enough, sir. Let me be the judge of that. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She got up and wrote until 3 a.m, a story about a woman who finds strength in the darkest moments. When she finished, she read it 3 times, correcting every comma, every word. Would she dare to show it to him? And just as she began to trust, the past returned unannounced. Have you ever felt like someone powerful truly saw you, not as an employee, but as a person? Give it a like if this connection is exciting you, comment which city you're following from, and subscribe so you don't miss a second of this story that is just beginning. On Friday morning, Emily arrived at the residence with a folder under her arm. Inside was the story she had written, printed on cheap paper, but with her heart poured into every word. She had decided to take a risk, to show Ethan that she was more than just an employee. Helen greeted her with a worried expression. Emily, I need to warn you. Mr. Ethan has visitors today. His lawyer and other people stay in the library and don't come out for any reason. Did something bad happen? The legal troubles. It seems they're getting worse. Emily climbed the stairs with a knot in her stomach. Ethan's problems were not her responsibility, but she had started to care about what happened to this lonely, proud man. Upon entering the library, she found Ethan sitting at his desk, surrounded by legal papers. He wore a dark suit that made him look more formal and distant. His blue eyes were fixed on the documents, but when she entered, he looked up. "Good morning, Miss Johnson." "Good morning, Mr. Cole." He noticed the folder in her hands. "What do you have there?" Emily felt her cheeks flush. It's the story I told you about, but I see you're busy. It can wait. Leave it on the desk. I'll read it when I have time." Men's voices were heard from the first floor. Ethan tensed visibly. "My lawyer and a private investigator. They're trying to clear my name, but—" He stopped as if he had said too much. "Excuse me, I shouldn't involve you in my problems." Emily approached timidly. "Sir, sometimes talking to someone who isn't involved can help. If you need, I don't know, someone to listen." Ethan looked at her. In surprise, for a moment, his mask of coldness cracked, and Emily saw the vulnerable man hiding behind the businessman. "Why would you be kind to me? I'm your boss. Nothing more. Because everyone deserves to have someone who believes in their innocence." The words came from her heart before she could stop them. Ethan stood still, looking at her as if he were seeing her for the first time. A knock on the door interrupted the moment. "Ethan!" a female voice shouted from the hallway. "I know! You're in there." Ethan's face hardened instantly. "Victoria," he muttered as if the name were poison in his mouth. "Do you want me to leave?" Emily whispered. "No, stay. I might need a witness." The door opened unceremoniously and a woman who looked like she stepped out of a fashion magazine entered. Blonde, tall, in a red dress that cost more than Emily's annual salary. Behind her, a man in a suit who looked like a lawyer. "Ethan, darling," Victoria said with a fake smile. "We need to talk." "We have nothing to talk about, Victoria. My lawyers are handling everything. But I do have something to tell you, something that could change this whole unpleasant situation." Victoria noticed Emily's presence and looked at her with contempt. "And who is this? Your new secretary?" "I'm the librarian," Emily replied with dignity, though she felt her cheeks flush. "Librarian?" Victoria laughed cruelly. "Seriously, Ethan, have you fallen that low?" "Victoria." Ethan's voice was dangerously low. "You have 5 minutes. Speak." "All right, I'm here to offer you a deal. I drop all the accusations, clear your name publicly, and even help you get back the investors who left. I just need one thing in return." "What do you want?" "For you to marry me." The silence that followed was so thick, Emily felt she could cut it with a knife. Ethan rose slowly from his seat, his expression one of disbelief and disgust. "Are you insane?" "I'm being practical. You need to clean up your reputation. I need to establish myself socially. We can help each other. You were the one who falsely accused me. You ruined my reputation with lies, and I can be the one to fix it. Think about it, Ethan. It's a fair offer." Emily watched the scene, feeling a mixture of rage and pain. How could someone be so manipulative, so cruel? "My answer is no. Now please leave my house." "You have 1 week to think about it," Victoria said, heading for the door. "After that, things are going to get much worse for you." When they left, Ethan sank into his chair as if he had been physically struck. Emily approached slowly. "Are you all right, sir?" "No, I'm not all right." He looked up at her. "Did you hear all that?" "Yes, sir." "And what do you think?" Emily took a deep breath. She could give a safe, diplomatic answer, or she could be honest. "I think she's a despicable woman who doesn't deserve a second of your time, and that any man who marries someone like that for convenience is destroying his own soul." Ethan looked at her in amazement. "Do you really think that?" "Yes. Dignity is not negotiable, Mr. Cole. Ever." He got up and walked to the window, turning his back to her. "That's easy to say when you don't have an entire empire built by generations of your family depending on your decisions. With respect, sir, but your family built that empire with honor. Do you think they would be proud to see you marry someone who is blackmailing you? Ethan turned abruptly. How dare you speak to me like that? Because someone has... Too, Emily replied, surprising herself with her own bravery. Because I see that you're suffering, and I see that you're considering destroying your own happiness out of fear. And what do you know about my happiness? I know that when you read poetry, you smile. I know you speak tenderly of the books you've loved. I know you have a kind heart because you gave me a chance when no one else would. And I know that woman would turn all of that to ash. Ethan moved closer to her, and Emily could see, his blue eyes shining with an emotion she couldn't identify. Why do you care what happens to me? The question hung in the air between them. Emily felt her heart beating so loud he could hear it. Because you see me. Not as an employee, not as an object. You see me as a person. And that's very rare in this world. Ethan reached out and very slowly touched her cheek. Emily felt an electric shock run through her entire body. Emily, he whispered, and it was the first time he had said her name like that softly. You don't know what you're getting into. Maybe not, but I know that what I feel is real. He moved closer, and for a moment, Emily thought he was going to kiss her. But then, as if waking from a dream, Ethan pulled away abruptly. This can't happen. You work for me. I'm in an impossible situation. And what about what we just felt? What we just felt can't exist. Not now. Maybe never. He took the folder with her writings from the desk. I'll read this. Tonight, tomorrow we'll talk about everything. Emily felt tears threatening to fall, but she maintained her dignity. Yes, sir. And Emily, thank you for defending me, for seeing me as more than my mistakes. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Ethan's blue eyes, felt his hand on her cheek, heard his voice saying her name like a caress. What was going to happen now? Had she crossed a line she shouldn't have? Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Stay away from Ethan Cole if you know what's good for you. You're not the first little employee to get her hopes up with him. You won't be the last to get hurt. Emily felt fear freeze her veins. Victoria. How had she gotten her number? But more than fear, she felt anger. No one, absolutely no one, was going to intimidate her into giving up what could be the most real connection of her life. What he had said before he left would change the course of the entire story. Have you ever felt that the perfect moment arrived at the most complicated time? If this tension has you on the edge of your seat, give it a like. Tell us what you think Emily should do. Comment which city you're watching from, and subscribe, because what's coming is pure emotional intensity. Emily arrived early on Saturday morning, the threatening message still echoing in her mind. Helen seemed nervous when she greeted her. Mr. Ethan is waiting for you in the library. And Emily, be careful. He was very strange last night, pacing until very late. As she climbed the stairs, Emily felt that each step brought her closer to a conversation that could change her life forever. She found Ethan standing by the fireplace, which for the first time was lit. The fire cast dancing shadows on his face, making him look more mysterious and handsome than usual. In his hands, he held the folder with her writings. Good morning, Mr. Cole. Good morning, Emily. His voice was soft, almost intimate. Please sit down. She sat in one of the leather armchairs, trying to maintain her composure. Ethan approached and sat across from her, the folder on his lap. I read your story all night. Emily's heart raced. And it's exceptional. Not just well-written, but emotional, real. It speaks of pain, of dignity lost and found. It speaks of a woman who discovers her own strength. He paused. Is it autobiographical? In part. The feelings are real, even if the events are fiction. The protagonist is named Elena. She has green eyes and works cleaning offices after losing a job for rejecting her boss's advances. Emily felt her cheeks flush. Yes. And she finds her salvation when a man truly sees her beyond her financial situation. Mr. Cole, the man in the story, is going through his own demons. He's being blackmailed by his past, but he finds hope in her eyes. The silence stretched between them, heavy with meaning. Ethan stood up and walked over to her. Kneeling in front of the armchair where she sat, he took her hands in his. "Emily, are you talking about us?" She looked into his eyes, seeing in them the same vulnerability she had put into her story. "Yes." "And the end of the story? Where he tells her he can't be with her because it's too complicated. That's not the real ending. That's the ending he thinks he has to write out of fear. And what is the real ending?" Emily took a deep breath, feeling like she was about to jump off a cliff. "The real ending is where he decides that some risks are worth taking, where he understands that a life without true love isn't living, it's just existing." Ethan squeezed her hands. "Emily, I'm not the man of your dreams. I'm professionally ruined, being blackmailed by a despicable woman, and my future is uncertain. I have no right to ask you to share that with me. And what if I want to share it? Why would you want to do that? Because when you look at me, I see the man you really are. Not the businessman, not the newspaper scandal. I see someone who reads poetry late at night, who treats his employees with respect, who cares about his family's legacy. I see someone who, like me, is tired of being alone." Ethan moved closer until she could feel his breath on her face. "If we do this, there's no going back. My world is complicated, dangerous. Victoria is not going to give up easily. I'm not afraid of Victoria or her world. Are you sure?" For an answer, Emily leaned forward and brushed her lips against his. It was a soft kiss, filled with everything they couldn't say with words. Ethan responded by deepening the kiss, wrapping his arms around her as if to protect her from the whole world. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers. "Emily, this changes everything. I know. Victoria will try to hurt you. She'll investigate your life. She'll look for a way to drive you away from me. Let her try. My life is an open book. I have no dark secrets, nothing to hide." Ethan smiled for the first time since she had met him, a genuine smile that completely transformed his face. "Do you know what I like most about you, Miss Johnson?" "What, Mr. Cole?" "Your strength. Your ability to remain dignified no matter the circumstances." They stayed like that, embraced in front of the fire, until Helen knocked discreetly on the door. "Mr. Cole, you have a phone call. They say it's urgent." Ethan sighed and stood up, kissing Emily's forehead before walking away. "Don't go anywhere. I'll be back in a moment." But he didn't. "Come back in a moment." Emily heard his voice rise from the floor below, then hurried footsteps, then the sound of a car driving away. Helen came up with a worried expression. "He's gone. He said it was a family emergency. His lawyer called, something about new evidence in the case." Emily felt a pit in her stomach. "When is he coming back?" "I don't know, honey. But he left you this." She handed her an envelope with her name written in Ethan's elegant handwriting. Inside, a note. "Emily, complications have arisen that require my immediate attention. It could be days, maybe weeks. Please don't wait for me. If what we started today is real, it will withstand time and distance. If not, it's better that we know now. Always maintain your dignity, no matter what happens. With affection, E." Emily felt tears threatening to fall, but she quickly wiped them away. She had spent her whole life waiting for others to decide her fate. Not anymore. "Helen, can I stay here until he returns? Continue to take care of the library." "Of course, honey. This house needs life, and you give it that." The days that followed were an emotional roller coaster. Emily kept the library immaculate, but every noise made her hope it was Ethan returning. At night, she wrote in her notebook, pouring all her feelings into words that he might never read. On Wednesday, while organizing the history books, she found a photograph that had fallen out of one of them. It was a young Ethan, maybe 10 years old, next to an older man who looked a lot like him, and an elegant, beautiful woman. On the back, in a child's handwriting, "Mum, Dad, and me in Malibu, 1995. Emily felt a pang of tenderness. That smiling boy had become the lonely man she had met, carrying the weight of family expectations and personal betrayals. On Thursday night, as she was having dinner alone in the kitchen with Helen, they heard the sound of engines outside. "Could it be him?" Emily asked, her heart racing. Helen peeked through the window and her expression darkened. "No, honey, it's Miss Victoria, and she's brought company." Emily felt fear freeze her veins, but she stood tall with dignity. "Does she have a key to the house?" Yes, she was his fiancée. Ethan never took it back. The sound of heels on marble grew closer. Emily took a deep breath, preparing for the confrontation she knew was inevitable. Victoria entered the kitchen as if she owned the place, followed by two men who looked like private detectives. Well, the little bookworm is still here, waiting for your Prince Charming to return? I work here, Miss Price. I have every right to be here." "Work?" Victoria laughed cruelly. "Or are you hunting for a rich husband? Watch your language." "Or what? Are you going to cry?" Victoria got dangerously close. "Let me explain something to you, little girl. Ethan is in serious legal trouble. Trouble that only I can solve. And when he comes back, he's going to do exactly what's best for him. Marry me. He'll be the one to decide that." "Do you really think he's going to choose a penniless little employee over the woman who can save his reputation and his company?" The words hurt, but Emily maintained her composure. "I think he'll choose happiness over convenience." "How romantic!" Victoria clapped mockingly. "But romance doesn't pay for lawsuits. Romance doesn't recover lost millions. Romance doesn't clean up scandals." One of the men with her stepped forward. "Miss Johnson, is it? I'm a private investigator. We've been looking into your past." Emily felt a shiver, but she lifted her chin. "Look all you want. I have nothing to hide." "No? Not even the fact that your last boss fired you on accusations of theft?" Emily's world swayed. That was the lie her ex-boss had invented to justify firing her after she rejected his advances. "That's false. I was laid off due to personnel cuts." "Not according to the official file," the man said, showing her a paper. "It clearly states, terminated for dishonesty and possible theft of office supplies." Emily felt her legs tremble. Her ex-boss had lied on the official record to protect himself. "That's not true, and you know it." "What I know is irrelevant," Victoria intervened. "What matters is what Ethan is going to think when he sees this. Do you think he's going to trust a woman accused of theft? Do you think he's going to risk what little reputation he has left for you? He knows me. He knows who I really am." "Really? You've been working here for what, 2 weeks? Men like Ethan don't risk their future for passing fancies." Emily felt tears threatening to fall, but she took a deep breath. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. "If you have to resort to lies and blackmail to win, you've already lost. The only one who's going to lose here is you. When Ethan gets back, I'm going to show him this file. And when he sees that you lied to him about your past, that you hid the theft accusations, he's going to realize what kind of woman you really are." "I didn't lie to him about anything." "No? Did you tell him you were fired for alleged theft? Or did you just say you lost your job?" Emily fell silent. Technically, Victoria was right. She hadn't lied, but she hadn't told the whole truth either. "Exactly. And when he finds out, he's going to realize that I'm the only woman he can truly trust. Get out of this house. Now. I'm leaving. But you should leave too, before he comes back and publicly humiliates you." When they left, Emily collapsed into a kitchen chair. Helen came over and hugged her. "Don't pay them any mind, honey. They're snakes. But they're right about one thing, Helen. I didn't tell Ethan everything about my dismissal. What's he going to think when he finds out? He's going to think you're human, that you have a right to protect your privacy. And what if he doesn't? What if he decides he can't trust me? Then he's not the man you think he is." That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She got up and wrote a letter to Ethan, telling him the whole truth about being fired, about the false accusations, about why she hadn't been completely honest from the beginning. When she finished, she folded it and left it on the library desk, next to the photograph of him as a child that she had found. If what they had started was real, he would understand. If not, it was better to know now. Can you love someone who broke your soul? The answer is just a step away. Have you ever had to choose between protecting yourself or being completely vulnerable with someone? If this tension has you holding your breath, give it a like, comment, what you think will happen when Ethan returns. Tell us which city you're following from, and subscribe, because the conclusion is about to arrive, and it's going to be intense. Ethan returned on a Sunday afternoon, after 10 days that felt like an eternity. Emily saw him arrive from the library window, immediately noticing he looked different, thinner, more tired, but also with something in his eyes she hadn't seen before: determination. Helen told her he had arrived, but he came straight up to the library without stopping anywhere else. When he opened the door, Emily was standing by the desk, her hands trembling and her heart beating so hard she was sure he could hear it. Emily. Her name sounded like both a caress and a reproach. Ethan approached slowly, and she could see he was holding something in his hands. A folder with legal documents. "Mr. Cole, how was your trip? Productive, painful, revealing?" He stopped in front of her. "Did you miss me?" The question caught her off guard with its direct honesty. "Every minute of every day." Ethan smiled, but it was a sad smile. "I missed you too, more than I could have imagined possible." He placed the folder on the desk. "But I came back to some unpleasant surprises." Emily's stomach clenched. The moment had come. Victoria was here. "I know," Helen told me. "I also know she showed you this." He took a paper from the folder. "Your official employment record from your last job." Emily closed her eyes, preparing for the worst. "Ethan, I can explain." "You don't need to explain anything. I already know the truth." She opened her eyes, surprised. "What?" "During my trip, I hired my own investigators, not to spy on you, but to protect you. I knew Victoria would try to hurt you, and I wanted to be prepared." Ethan took out another document. "This is the real record of your dismissal. Personnel cut, just as you told me. Your ex-boss changed the official version after you left, probably to protect himself from a harassment lawsuit." Emily felt her knees tremble with relief. "So you know that?" "I know you're honest. I know you have integrity, and I know Victoria tried to manipulate me with lies." He moved closer. "But I also found your letter." The letter. Emily had forgotten the letter where she told him the whole truth. "I read it last night when I arrived, and I realized something. You were willing to risk everything to be honest with me. You were willing to lose me rather than deceive me. Yes, because if you couldn't trust me knowing the whole truth, then we had nothing real." Ethan took her face in his hands. "Emily, these 10 days have been the hardest of my life, not just because of the legal problems, but because I realized I had found something I didn't know I was looking for. A woman who loves me for who I am, not for what I have. And the legal problems? Victoria?" Ethan smiled, and this time it was a genuine smile, full of relief. "Victoria made a mistake. In her desperation to ruin my reputation, she falsified evidence. My investigators discovered it. Now she's the one facing criminal charges for defamation, blackmail and forgery." "Really? Really? My name is cleared. My company is safe, and most importantly, I'm free to be with whoever I want to be with." Emily felt tears of happiness begin to well up. "And who do you want to be?" "With? With a woman with green eyes who sees poetry in everything, who defends my honor without being asked, who writes stories that touch the soul. With a woman who prefers dignity over comfort, who makes me want to be a better man every day." Ethan. "Emily, these days apart gave me clarity on something. I don't want to spend another day without you by my side. Not as an employee, not as a secret, as my partner, my equal, my life companion." "What are you saying?" Ethan knelt before her, taking her hands. "I'm saying that I love you. I'm saying I want to build a future with you. I'm saying I don't care what society says about our economic differences, because real love knows no social classes. I love you too. But Ethan, our worlds are so different. Then let's create our own world. You want to write? I can help you get published. You want to make a difference? We can create an educational foundation together. You want a family? I want to give you all the love I have." Emily knelt, too, meeting him at his level. "Are you sure? Are you sure you can love a woman who doesn't come from your world?" "Emily, you don't come from my world. You come from a better one." One where people fight for their dreams, where dignity is worth more than money, where love is built with actions, not possessions. They kissed then, with the passion accumulated over days of separation and the promise of a future together. When they parted, Ethan showed her something else he had brought in the folder. "Remember you told me you wanted to write something that would touch hearts?" "Yes. I contacted an editor friend of mine. I showed him your story. He wants to publish it." Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Really? Really? And not because of my recommendation, because it's genuinely good, because it speaks of universal things, pain, hope, true love. I don't know what to say. Say yes to the publication, to me, to our future together. Yes, yes to everything." Ethan lifted her into his arms and spun her around, laughing with pure joy for the first time since she had known him. "There's something else," he said when he set her down. "I want you to meet my family, my sister, my uncles. I want them to know I've found the woman of my life. What if they don't like me? They'll love you, but if they didn't, it wouldn't matter, because I've already made my decision." That night they had dinner together on the residence's terrace under the Los Angeles stars. Ethan told her about his trip, about how he had discovered Victoria's lies, about how he had spent the nights thinking of her. Emily told him about her days in the library, how she had written thinking of him, how she had held on to hope even when Victoria tried to destroy it. "There's something I have to tell you," Ethan said as they had coffee. "The investigation revealed more than just Victoria's lies. It also revealed she had been stealing money from the company for months. That's why she accused me, to divert attention from her own crimes. What's going to happen to her? She's going to prison, and I'm going to get back all the money she stole, plus damages to my reputation." "Do you feel good about that?" Ethan reflected for a moment. "I'm not happy to see someone destroy themselves, but it feels good that justice is served, that the truth triumphs over lies. Like in my story. Like in our story." Emily took his hand across the table. "Ethan, what are we going to do now? Practically speaking, I mean." "Well, first I'm going to officially ask you to quit your job as a librarian." "What? Why?" "Because I want to hire you as my personal assistant and editorial consultant, with a proper salary, benefits, and the flexibility to write. I don't want you to support me. I'm not going to support you. You're going to work, you're going to earn your own money, you're going to be independent, but you're going to do it by my side, as my partner in everything. And after that, we're going to fall more in love every day. We're going to travel together, build dreams together, create a life that is ours. And when we're ready, when you feel sure that this is forever, I'm going to ask you to marry me." "And what if I tell you I'm already sure?" Ethan looked at her intensely. "Really? Really?" "Ethan, these days apart taught me something. I can be strong alone, but I'd rather be strong with you. I can face the world alone, but I want to face it by your side. Emily Johnson, would you do me the honor of becoming my wife?" "Yes, 1,000 times yes." They kissed under the Los Angeles stars, sealing a promise that had begun among books and words, and that now was becoming a real and lasting love story. Months later, in a small ceremony in the residence's gardens, Emily Johnson became Emily Cole. Her family cried with joy. Ethan's family had welcomed her with open arms, and Helen had organized the most beautiful reception Beverly Hills had ever seen. But the most beautiful thing of all was the way Ethan looked at her, as if she were the most precious treasure in the world, as if every day with her was a gift. The secret had finally been revealed, and nothing would ever be the same again. Have you ever felt all your fears melt away when you found your right person? Give it a like if this ending is moving you. Comment what you think of this revelation. Tell us which city you're watching from, and subscribe, because the final chapter is about to wrap up this story in the most beautiful way. 2 years later, Emily woke up in the bed she now shared with Ethan, feeling the California sun filtering through the silk curtains. Beside her, her husband slept peacefully, an expression of peace on his face that still thrilled her to see every morning. On the nightstand was her first published book, Silent Hearts, which had become a national bestseller. Critics had praised her ability to capture universal emotions, and letters from readers confirmed she had achieved a dream to touch hearts with her words. Ethan stirred and opened his eyes, smiling immediately upon seeing her. "Good morning, Mrs. Cole." "Good morning, Mr. Cole." It was a morning ritual that never lost its magic. He moved closer and kissed her softly, as he did every morning since they had married. "What plans does the most famous writer in America have for today?" "A meeting with the publisher to discuss my second book, then an interview for a literary magazine. And tonight," she smiled, mysteriously, "I have a surprise for my husband." "What kind of surprise?" "The kind that's going to change our lives forever." Ethan sat up, intrigued. "Emily, what?" She got up and went to the closet, taking out a small box wrapped in blue paper. "Open it." With trembling hands, Ethan unwrapped the box. Inside were a tiny pair of baby shoes and an ultrasound picture. "Emily, we're going to be parents." Ethan lifted her into his arms, shouting with joy and spinning her around the room. When he set her down, he had tears in his eyes. "How long have you known?" "A week. I wanted to be sure before I told you." "How do you feel?" "Happy, excited, a little scared. And you?" "Like I'm the luckiest man in the world." They hugged in silence, feeling that their love had created something new, something that would connect them forever. "Boy or girl?" Ethan asked. "It's too soon to know, but I'm secretly hoping for a girl." "Why?" "So I can tell her our story. To teach her that true love exists, that it's worth waiting for, that it's worth fighting for." Ethan took her face in his hands. "Emily, do you know what I admire most about you?" "What?" "You transform my life without losing your essence. You're still the woman I met in the library, dignified, strong, a dreamer. But now you're also successful, renowned, loved by thousands of readers. That's because you gave me the wings to fly, but you never tried to change who I was. And you taught me that money and power mean nothing without someone to share them with." They went down to breakfast together, as they did every morning. The residence had changed a lot in 2 years. Now there was life in every corner, plants in every window, photographs of their travels together, copies of Emily's books on every table. Helen, who was now more family than employee, greeted them with a smile. "Did you tell him the news yet?" "You knew?" Ethan asked. "Please. I've been looking after pregnant women my whole life. I could tell for days." "Was it that obvious?" "Only to someone who knows you well." Helen hugged Emily. "This baby is going to be so lucky to have you as parents." During breakfast, they planned how to tell their families the news. Emily's parents, now living comfortably thanks to Ethan's discreet generosity, would be ecstatic. The Coles, who had welcomed Emily like the daughter they never had, would celebrate for days. "You know what?" Ethan said. "I want the baby to grow up knowing the full story of how we met. Even the hard parts, especially the hard parts, so they understand that real love isn't easy, but it's always worth it." "And what lesson do you want them to learn from Victoria?" Ethan reflected for a moment. "That hurt people sometimes hurt others, that we should have compassion, but also protect ourselves, and that the truth always comes to light, no matter how long it takes." "Do you know anything about her?" "She served 6 months in prison. When she got out, she moved to Europe. I heard she's trying to rebuild her life. I hope she succeeds, and that she finds the peace she never could find with me." "You're a very good man, Ethan Cole." "Only because I have a very good woman who teaches me how to be one every day." That afternoon, Emily had her meeting with the publisher. Her editor, Mr. Roberts, was thrilled with the first pages of her second book. "Emily, this new story is even more powerful than the first. It talks about second chances, forgiveness, family. Is it based on real experiences?" "All my stories have some truth to them. The feelings are always authentic." "Well, prepare for another book tour, because this is going to be another hit." When she returned home, she found Ethan in the library, reading in the same armchair where they had first kissed. There was something poetic about seeing him there, surrounded by the books that had brought them together. "How was the meeting?" "Excellent. Mr. Roberts thinks the second book will be even more successful than the first." "And the interview?" They asked about my inspiration. I told them I write about love because I live it every day. Ethan closed his book and pulled her towards him. Do you know what the most beautiful thing about all this is? What? That our story is just beginning. We have decades ahead of us to love each other, to grow together, to create memories, and to write more books, to write the most beautiful story of all, our families. Emily snuggled against him, feeling that she was exactly where she belonged. Ethan, do you ever imagine what our lives would be like if we hadn't met? Sometimes, and it scares me to think about it. I'd probably still be a bitter man, locked away in this house, distrusting everyone. And I'd still be cleaning offices, writing in secret, dreaming of a love that seemed impossible. But we found each other. We found each other. Do you believe in fate, Emily? I believe that some people are destined to meet. I believe the universe conspires to bring together souls that complete each other. Then we're very lucky. We are very lucky. That night, as they had dinner on the terrace under the stars that had witnessed their first kiss as an engaged couple, Emily reflected on the path they had travelled. From a cleaning lady to a successful writer, from a lonely woman to a beloved wife, from a dreamer to a mother-to-be. But more than the external changes, what she valued most was how she had grown internally. She had learned to value herself, to stand up for herself, to love without losing her identity. What are you thinking about so deeply? Ethan asked, noticing her contemplative silence. About all the women who are going through what I went through. Those who are cleaning offices while dreaming of writing. Those who are being unfairly fired, those who believe true love only exists in books. And what would you say to them? That they shouldn't give up, that they should maintain their dignity no matter how hard life gets. That real love exists, but it only comes when you learn to love yourself first. Ethan took her hand across the table. Do you know what I like most about the Emily I know now compared to the one I met 2 years ago? What? That now you know your worth. Before you had that strength but also doubts. Now there are no doubts. You know you deserve to be loved, respected, valued. That's because you taught me that. No, my love. I just held up a mirror so you could see what was always there. 3 months later, at the presentation of her second book at a major book fair, Emily found herself in front of an auditorium filled with women of all ages. Some young like she had been, others older, but all with the same hungry look of hope in their eyes. My story isn't special because it has a happy ending, she told them from the podium, with Ethan smiling proudly in the front row. It's special because it taught me that we, the women who come from nothing, who fight every day, who clean, who serve, who dream. In silence, we also deserve to be the protagonists of our own love stories. The applause was deafening. Later, during the Q&A session, a young woman raised her hand. Mrs. Cole, how did you know he loved you for who you were, and not just as a fling? Emily looked at Ethan, who winked at her. Because he saw me when no one else did. Because he valued my mind as much as my heart. Because he never tried to change me. He only helped me blossom. And because when he had to choose between convenience and me, he chose me. Another woman asked, what advice would you give to a woman who is in a situation similar to the one you experienced? To not negotiate your dignity for anything or anyone. To cultivate your talents, even if no one values them at first. To know that you deserve a love that makes you grow, not one that makes you small. And to write your own story literally or metaphorically, because words have the power to change destinies. At the end of the event, an older woman approached, with tears in her eyes. Ma'am, I'm 60 years old and I've just left a marriage where I was made to feel invisible for 30 years. Your story gives me hope that it's not too late to start over. Emily hugged her. It's never too late to be happy. It's never too late to be valued. Your new life is just beginning. On the way home, Ethan drove while Emily caressed her belly, which was already beginning to show the little life growing inside. How do you feel after the event? Complete, as if everything makes sense. The pain, the struggle, meeting you, the success. It was all necessary to get here, to this moment where I can help other women believe in themselves. And you know what's most beautiful? What? That this is just the beginning. You're going to inspire thousands more women. You're going to write more books. You're going to be a mother. You're going to keep growing and shining. We're going to do it together. Because this story was never just about me. It was about us. About how two wounded people can heal together and create something beautiful. 6 months later, on a spring morning, Lily Grace Cole came into the world. She was a perfect baby, with her father's blue eyes and her mother's delicate features. When Emily held her in her arms for the first time, she cried not from pain, but from pure happiness. "She's perfect," Ethan whispered, touching his daughter's tiny hand. "Look at her," Emily said. "She already has so much personality. She's going to be strong. I can feel it. She's going to be just like her mother, beautiful, intelligent, brave. And she's going to grow up knowing she can be anything she wants to be, that her worth doesn't depend on what others think of her. She's going to grow up in a home full of love, books, and stories. She's going to know that her parents love each other deeply and that she is the product of that love." 3 years later, little Lily ran through the gardens of the residence while her parents chased her, laughing. The library had become her favorite place, where Emily read her stories and Ethan taught her the names of authors. Life had been generous to them. Emily's books were being translated into other languages. Ethan had expanded his businesses ethically and prosperously, and together they had created an educational foundation that helped young people from low-income backgrounds attend college. But more than external success, what they valued most was what they had built together, a home, full of love, mutual respect, and shared dreams. One afternoon, while little Lily was napping, Emily and Ethan sat on their favorite terrace, the same one where they had promised each other eternal love. "Do you regret anything?" Emily asked. "About what?" "Marrying the cleaning lady instead of a woman from your social class." Ethan looked at her in surprise. "Emily Cole, are you really asking me that after 5 years of marriage? Sometimes I wonder if your family really accepts me, if society really accepts us. My love, look around us. Look at the life we've built. Look at our daughter. Look at everything you've achieved. Does it really matter what anyone else thinks? No, you're right. It's just that sometimes you doubt because it's human to doubt. But let me remind you of something. You are not the same woman I met 5 years ago. You are stronger, more confident, more successful. And I am not the same man. I am better because you make me better. And what if our daughter asks us about class differences one day? We'll tell her the truth, that real love knows no social classes, that the only thing that matters is how you treat people, how you love, how you contribute to the world. We'll tell her that her mother is one of the most successful women in the country, not because she married me, but because of her own talent and hard work. Emily smiled, feeling the last of her doubts fade away. "Do you know what I love most about our story?" "What?" "That it didn't end when we got married. That every day we write a new chapter, that our love keeps growing, evolving, surprising us, and that we're going to have a whole lifetime to keep writing it." They kissed as the sun set over Los Angeles, the city that had witnessed their meeting, their love affair, their struggles, and their triumph. That night, after putting little Lily to bed, Emily sat in her study to write. No longer in a cheap notebook, but on a beautiful laptop on a desk filled with literary awards and family photographs. She wrote, "My dearest daughter, one day you will read this story and understand why your father and I look at each other as if for the first time. You will understand that true love is not a coincidence, but a choice. The choice to see the best in each other every day, to grow together, to support each other in the storms, and celebrate in the happy moments. Your story is just beginning, my love, and I want you to know that you can write it however you want. You can be whatever you dream of being. Love whomever you choose to love. Fight for what you believe is right, because you carry in your blood the strength of a woman who never gave up and the honor of a man who knew how to value that strength. This story is not just about us. It can also be about you. She closed the laptop and went to the bedroom where Ethan was waiting, reading a book of poems. Seeing her, he put the book aside and opened his arms. "Come here, famous writer. You come." "Here, successful businessman." They hugged in the bed they had shared for 5 years, feeling that every night was a gift, every awakening a new opportunity to love each other. "Ethan," Emily whispered in the darkness. "Yes, thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me when no one else did. For loving me when I myself doubted if I deserved to be loved. For building a life with me that surpasses all my dreams. Thank you, my love, for teaching me that the heart is wiser than the mind, for showing me that real love exists, for giving me a family, a life with purpose, a happiness I didn't know was possible." They fell asleep in each other's arms, as they did every night, certain that no matter what tomorrow brought, they would face it together. And in the library, among thousands of books that had been silent witnesses to their love story, a small photograph rested on the desk. Emily, Ethan, and little Lily in the residence's gardens, smiling with the happiness of a family that had found each other against all odds and had decided to love each other forever. This story is not just about them. It can also be about you. 10 years later, the auditorium at a prestigious New York City cultural center was completely packed. 2,000 people had gathered to hear Emily Cole at the launch of her 10th book, an autobiography titled From Maid to Mogul, A Journey of Dignity and Love. From the stage, Emily could see her family in the front row. Ethan, more handsome than ever at 42, held their younger son, Sebastian, aged 3, in his arms. Beside him, Lily Grace, now 7, clapped enthusiastically, already knowing that her mom was famous for writing pretty stories. Jessica, her sister, had flown in from the West Coast with her own children to be there. Her parents, beaming with pride, were bursting with emotion to see their daughter on one of the country's most prestigious stages. 10 years ago, Emily began, her clear, confident voice echoing through the auditorium, I was a 23-year-old woman who had lost her job for defending her dignity. I cleaned other people's windows while dreaming of writing my own words. I believed that true love only existed in the books I read in secret. A murmur of recognition rippled through the audience. Many of the women present had read her books, followed her story, and been inspired by her example. Today, I stand here, not just as a writer, but as an entrepreneur, a mother, a woman who learned that our origins do not determine our destiny. But I'm also here to tell you something you didn't know. My story didn't end with marriage. In fact, that's when the real adventure began. Ethan smiled from his seat, knowing what was coming. This was the first time Emily would publicly tell of the challenges they had faced as a couple, of how they had built not just a family, but a business empire together. 3 years after marrying Ethan, I made the riskiest decision of my life. I didn't just want to write about female empowerment. I wanted to create real opportunities for women in situations similar to the one I had lived. Emily paused, taking a sip of water, remembering those early days when the idea seemed impossible. With the royalties from my first 3 books and the unconditional support of my husband, we founded Women Who Write Publishing, a publishing house specializing in stories by women who had overcome adversity. We didn't just want to tell inspiring stories, we wanted to create jobs, opportunities, real change. The audience listened intently. This part of her story was less known. It had been deliberately kept private for years as they built the company. The first 2 years were terrible. We lost money, faced criticism from the traditional industry, and some said I was just a writer playing businesswoman. There were nights I cried, thinking I had made the biggest mistake of my life. Ethan remembered those nights. He had held Emily as she doubted herself, had been her strength when the world seemed against her. But he also remembered the exact moment when everything changed. But then came Maria Torres, a 50-year-old woman from Texas who had written her story after leaving an abusive marriage. Her manuscript arrived at our offices by chance, sent by her daughter who had read my books. The story was raw, painful, but incredibly powerful. Emily smiled, remembering the impact that book had. Breaking Chains became a phenomenon, not just in the US, but throughout Latin America. Maria became a voice for thousands of women who had lived through similar situations, and we understood that we had found our true purpose. In the audience, many women nodded. Several had read that book. Some had found in it the strength to leave toxic relationships, others to start new chapters in their lives. Today, 8 years later, Women Who Write Publishing has published over 200 books. We've created jobs for more than 50 people, mostly women. We have offices in New York, Miami, and Los Angeles. But more important than commercial success, we have helped change lives. The applause was deafening. Emily waited for it to die down before continuing. However, I want to be completely honest with you. Professional success did not protect us from personal challenges. 4 years ago, when Lily Grace was 3, we went through the biggest crisis of our marriage. An expectant silence filled the auditorium. This was completely new information, something she had never shared publicly. The success of the publishing house had consumed me. I was working 16 hours a day, traveling constantly, and I had become everything I had criticized, a woman who had put her career before her family. Ethan felt invisible. Our daughter barely saw me, and I was so obsessed with empowering other women that I had forgotten to care for the most important people in my life. Ethan felt a pang of emotion remembering those difficult days. They had been months of tense conversations, of arguments about priorities, of questioning what truly mattered. One night, after missing my daughter's birthday to be at a presentation in London, Ethan said something that changed everything. "Emily, I love you and I admire everything you've achieved, but I don't want our children to grow up feeling they had to compete with your success for your attention." Some women in the audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. It was a dilemma many faced, the balance between personal ambition and family responsibilities. That night I understood something fundamental. Female empowerment doesn't mean sacrificing everything for a career. It means having the wisdom to create balance, to know when to say no, to understand that being professionally successful is empty if you have no one to share that success with. Emily looked directly at Ethan, who blew her a kiss from the audience. We made difficult decisions. We hired a CEO for the publishing house so I could focus on the creative and strategic side without having to manage daily operations. We established family rules. No work after 6 in the evening. Weekends were sacred for the family, and for every business trip, we would plan a family trip. And did it work? Someone shouted from the audience. Emily laughed. It worked better than we imagined. It turns out that when you have clear boundaries, you're more productive in the time you dedicate to work. When you have a happy, supportive family, you have more creative energy. And when your partner feels valued, everything flows better. The audience applauded, many taking mental notes of the practical advice. But the most important lesson came 2 years ago, when we decided to have Sebastian. Many people told us we were crazy, that my career would suffer, that the company needed all my attention. Do you know what we discovered? That love multiplies, it doesn't divide. In the front row, little Sebastian had started making noises, as if he knew they were talking about him. Ethan gently quieted him. Sebastian arrived at the exact moment the publishing house needed to expand internationally. Instead of seeing him as an obstacle, we saw him as an opportunity to show that women can be successful mothers and entrepreneurs at the same time, if they have the right support and set the right priorities. Emily paused again, drinking water and observing the attentive faces in the audience. Today I want to talk to you about our most ambitious project, The Silent Hearts Foundation. We've decided to use part of the profits from the publishing house to create therapeutic writing centers in low-income communities, places where women can not only learn to write, but use writing as a tool for healing and empowerment. The applause was immediate and prolonged. The first center will open in Los Angeles, in the neighborhood where I grew up. The second in Texas, where Maria Torres lives, who is now our Director of Community Program. We want to show that every woman has a valuable story to tell, and that those stories can transform not only their own lives, but the lives of other women as well. A young woman in the audience raised her hand. Mrs. Cole, what advice would you give to young women who want to follow in your footsteps but feel they don't have the opportunities you had? Emily thought carefully before answering. First, my opportunities didn't come by chance. They came because I constantly prepared. Myself, because I read everything I could, because I developed my skills even when no one was paying me for it. Second, don't wait for the perfect conditions to start. I started by writing in cheap notebooks with a pen that cost me $1. What's important isn't the materials, but the consistency and passion. She paused and continued. Third, and this is crucial, seek out mentors. Identify women who are where you want to be and approach them with humility, but also with concrete proposals. Don't just ask for advice, offer value in return. And finally, never forget that your biggest competition is not other women, but yourself. Every day, try to be a little better than the day before. Another woman asked, how do you handle the criticism from those who say you only succeeded because you married a rich man? The question caused a murmur in the audience. It was something Emily had faced for years, especially on social media and in some media outlets. That criticism hurt me a lot in the first few years, Emily admitted honestly. But over time, I understood something. The people who make those comments are speaking more about their own insecurities than my reality. My first book was published before I got married. My second book was written while I was working as a librarian. My third was based on my own experience, not my husband's. Her voice grew firmer. Ethan has been my partner, my support, my partner in life. But my ideas, my words, my work, my business vision, all of that is mine. And any woman who doubts that can check the contracts, the copyrights, and the ownership structure of our company. My name is on everything because I built it. The applause was thunderous. Many women stood up. Furthermore, Emily continued when the noise subsided, I want to normalize something. It's okay to receive support from our partners. It's okay that the men who love us want to see us succeed. That doesn't diminish our achievements, it strengthens them. True feminism is not rejecting all male help. It's creating relationships where men and women support each other so that both can shine. An older woman raised her hand. What are your plans for the future? More books? More expansion of the publishing house? Emily smiled and looked at Ethan, who nodded with a knowing smile. Well, I have to confess something. This book we're presenting today will be my last autobiographical book for a while. I've decided to return to my roots, romance fiction, but this time with a difference. The audience leaned forward, curious. I'm going to write a series of novels about female entrepreneurs. Love stories, yes, but also stories of women who build empires, who make tough decisions, who balance love and ambition. I want to show that romance and female empowerment are not incompatible. And the publishing house will continue to grow, but now under the direction of an incredible team we've built over these years. My role will be more strategic, identifying new talent, developing foundation programs, and of course, continuing to write. The Q&A time came to an end, and Emily prepared for her final words. Before I close, I want to tell you something these 10 years have taught me. True success isn't measured just in money or recognition. It's measured in the lives you touch, in the opportunities you create for others, in the legacy you leave behind. She looked towards her family in the front row. When Lily Grace and Sebastian grow up, I Want them to know that their mother didn't just write successful books. I want them to know that she helped change the publishing industry, that she created jobs for dozens of families, that she inspired thousands of women to pursue their dreams. But more importantly, I want them to know that I never sacrificed being their mother to be professionally successful. Tears began to well up in many eyes in the audience. To all the women here tonight, you have the power to write your own story. It doesn't matter what your starting point is. It doesn't matter what your current limitations are. If a cleaning lady from a poor neighborhood could become an international entrepreneur, you too can achieve whatever you set your mind to. The final applause lasted for more than 5 minutes. When it finally subsided, Emily came down from the stage and ran to her family. Ethan greeted her with a hug that lasted an eternity, while Lily Grace clung to her dress and Sebastian reached his little arms out to her. "How did I do?" she whispered to Ethan. "Perfect, as always." "Ready for the next adventure?" he asked with a mysterious smile. "I'm always ready for adventures with you." That night, in their hotel suite, after putting the children to bed, Emily and Ethan sat on the balcony overlooking the lights of New York City. "Do you know what I love most about us after 10 years?" Emily asked. "What?" "That we still choose each other every day, that we continue to grow together, that our love didn't become comfortable and boring, but deeper and more exciting. And do you know what I love most?" "What?" "That the woman I fell in love with in that library is still there. More confident, more successful, wiser, but essentially the same. Noble, passionate, a dreamer." They sat in silence, contemplating the city spread out before them, knowing that no matter how much success they achieved, how many books they wrote, how many companies they built, the most important thing they had was this: the love they had cultivated for a decade and would continue to cultivate for all the decades they had left to live. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful love story. If Silent Hearts touched your heart, give it a like day to support us. Comment which city you're following from. Subscribe for more stories that touch the soul. Share your own ideas for new stories. What was your favorite moment? Did you identify with Emily? Do you believe in a love like Ethan and Emily's? We want to know your opinion.